presentation. So I'll do a shout out to my support team of Audra and Karen and ask them to start recording, as I will do the same, and we will start today's webinar. So welcome everybody. Welcome to our office hours presentation on Monday, December the 23rd. It's great to have you here. Office hours is an informal, kind of relaxed free mentoring program that I do every Monday at noon Pacific, although we may change the time coming up in the next couple of weeks. This recording will be available online along with many of the previous week's recordings, and eventually we're going to put all of these recordings in our membership area and start a membership area. There's 15 of them, counting the one today, a variety of different subjects. I pick something new every week, and a lot of times the topics are suggested by you who are listening to this, and we'll give you some ways to do that a little bit later on. But I'm always interested to speak on a subject that's going to be most valuable to you, so be keeping that in mind as we go through today's programs. The reasons I do this is because I know that being a successful small business owner can be a great experience, but it's also a big challenge. You need the training. You just need counsel from other people, and I want you to get to know me, because when you get to know me, I know that you will find out that I really do care about you, and I want you to succeed, and I can support you in many, many ways. And today we're going to talk about an in-depth discussion of a business principle, and then we're going to have some closing remarks and special offers, followed by a Q&A. And today's subject is on massive support, the key to making it all happen, getting the team that you need. And today's agenda is a pretty rich one, but I always start out by looking at the key performance areas of business that I defined in my first business book, The Foundation Factor, written in 2004, where I talk about how important it is to be competent and hopefully excellent in all of the critical key performance areas of business, from leadership to marketing to sales to financial management, to operations administration, product development, and customer service. And today's conversation is square in the area of leadership. Leadership is all about taking the reins of your business, taking responsibility, and also about building your support team so that you can accomplish the business model that you have in mind. In fact, in all of my business survival program, my Beyond Business Survival program, this is leadership success principle number 2, is getting massive support for your business. And when you take a look at that program, you will see many, many business success principles. I think there's 39 of them. This is number 2 on the list, so I'm happy to talk about this and stress a little bit and go into a little bit more depth on it. So the reasons why we get a massive support is for talent and bandwidth issues. We're also going to take a look today about what great teams do and the many, many different types of teammates that you might get for your team, the functional responsibilities that teammates might have, and so a little bit of comment on the sizes of teams. I'm going to go through each one of these different agenda items one by one and just give you some food for thought when it comes to getting the massive support on your team. But I start out with where I start out many of my presentations when it comes to strategic planning and starting and growing a business, and that is what I consider to be the most important question in all of business. Drum roll, please. The most important question in all of business is, who can I get on my team to help me form a great team? It's important for you to have a good team, but if you've never formed a good support team before, you may not know what a good support team looks like. If you've never hired somebody to help you with sales, you may not know what a good salesperson looks like or talks like. If you've never hired somebody to take care of your books for you, to assist with financial management, you may not know what a good bookkeeper looks like or what a good CPA sounds like and acts like. And that's why it's critical for you to get someone on your team from the very beginning who can help you make those good decisions, who can help you figure out who your teammates might be at this stage of your business growth, and can help you figure out what the qualifications would be for people who can be on your team right now, what good fees might be for those people on your team, and help you make some very good decisions about vetting them and having them join your team and managing them appropriately. The biggest reason why you go out and get people on your team is because of talent and bandwidth issues. It's very, very difficult to be good at everything. And goodness knows I've been trying now for a long time. I've been in business for 45 years or so, or even more than that. If you count the time at the taco stand in high school, you know, it's been nearly 50 years that I've been in business. And I know firsthand that as much as I try, it's very hard to be good at everything. It's certainly impossible to be excellent at everything. And if you have a company of any size at all, it's impossible to do everything. Even if you know how to do the things that need to be done in business, it's just impossible to do everything. So you need a good team surrounding you for talent reasons and for balance and for bandwidth reasons. For most people, they find that they are really good at one or two things, but there are some things that they're really not good at all. And if you find yourself to be a fortunate person about being reasonably good at everything in business, good at financial management, good at sales, good at marketing, good at those other things, I know that you will find that in order to leverage your talent, you need to surround yourself with a very good team. And here's what a very good team looks like. What great teams do is they combine to have expertise in every area of the business so that there's no area of the business that goes uncovered or is not covered by a talented professional. And the good teams work together. They have great synergy as they work together, and they cooperate and they collaborate and they communicate with each other, and ideally they show up every single day eager, enthusiastic, energized, and excited about being in business. So think about what an ideal team looks like. You may have worked on one of these great teams before, where every morning you showed up and everybody was there on time and everybody looked professional and neat, and they were all happy and eager to see you and excited to get ready on the day's business, and they worked quietly if appropriately, or they worked together in a very energized and synergetic way if that was appropriate for their particular job. And at the end of the day, people stayed a little bit late. They weren't worried about the closing bell, and they really supported each other. They joked and laughed around the coffee pot and went to lunch together. I mean, that's what a really good team looks like. They covered each other's backs, and they really were focused on the team succeeding at the team's goals and objectives. That's the ideal. Very few environments that I have been in come close to that ideal. And in my experience, when we had great teams, it was something that lasted for a number of months, 3 months, 6 months, or 9 months. Richard Pugh and I, Richard's on the call, had the opportunity to work at really great teams for some number of months many, many years ago. But as things happen, as economy changes, as management changes, as other things changes, those good teams can come and go. So I encourage you to do everything you can to make the team that you have a really high-performing team. And I also encourage you to be grateful every day if you happen to have a team that is a joy to be on and is performing extremely well together. And speaking of teams, there are a lot of different types of teammates out there. I'm going to explore a lot of different ways of looking at your teammate, about the legal relationships that you might have, the commitments that they are making to your company, the tour of duty that they have, the level in the organization that they might enjoy, the mindset of the team members, the experience that they have, the functional responsibilities that you have, and lastly, we're going to end up with the size of group. So I want you to sit back and relax and think of many different ways in which you might analyze the team that you have. First one I'm going to talk about is the legal relationship. In the legal relationship, you can have employees or contractors or partners. And it's important for you to know that each one of these different types of teammates also carries with it a different type of legal relationship. Whenever you have employees, you are legally obligated to pay them on time according to the wages they have earned. If they're hourly employees, there are legal obligations that are different from when they're salaried employees, and there are different ways in which you tell the difference between those two. With hourly employees, you're obligated to pay them overtime and in some cases double time. You have to give them some sort of vacation, and you have to deduct payroll taxes and remit those payroll taxes to the state and to the federal government in a very timely manner. So if you haven't got employees on your team yet and you're considering getting employees, recognize that there are legal obligations associated with that type of relationship with those teammates, and make sure you have professionals on your team, HR professionals or somebody that will do the payroll for you, that can make you be aware of the legal obligations. The legal obligations are much different with contractors. You do need to report their income annually if their income's in excess of $600, and you have to have them fill out a W-9 form. And as you know from listening to a lot of these conversations and office hours presentations, I'm a big fan on having great agreements in place in between you and your contractors. And also know that if you have a partner, that's a different type of legal relationship. A partner can be a contracting partner, much like you have with contractors, but it also can be a joint venture relationship that may have a different legal organization involved with it, or may have a much different type of contract involved with it. So be aware as you build your team that there are different types of legal relationships that you can have with your teammates, and each one of them carries their own specific nuances when it comes to managing that form of legal relationship. Another way of looking at your teammate is with regards to the type of commitment they have, full-time, part-time, or just incidental. So hopefully you've got some people on your team that are full-time employees, and if you have a business of any size, of course you will need full-time employees going forward. Part-time employees can be extremely valuable too when you don't need their talent or their bandwidth for that much time. And part-time employees also don't have the requirements for benefits that full-time employees do. And the third type is just incidental, somebody coming in and doing a few hours of work for you every once in a while. If you hire a plumber or an electrical contractor to just come in and do a specific task, they're not even part-time employees. They're not going to come back day after day or week after week. They're just incidental employees, and or incidental contractors, and that's a good way to look at your business too. A third way to look at your business is with the tour of duty, whether they're temporary, whether they're semi-permanent, or whether they're permanent employees. With the permanent employees, it's nice to have permanent employees, people that are going to be there for a long period of time. But you can have some very valuable employees and contractors where you recognize that this is going to be a semi-permanent relationship. Maybe it lasts for a year or 18 months or for 2 years. Or you can have employees or contractors that are just temporary for a specific period of time. A good example of a semi-permanent relationship might be a CFO. And every once in a while I have the privilege of being a CFO for companies, and we recognize that that's a semi-permanent relationship. Semi-permanent in that it's a little longer than temporary, maybe longer than 90 days or even 6 months, but we recognize that as the company grows, at some point in time, it's going to be less expensive for the company and the right thing for them to do to shift that position from a part-time position that was semi-permanent into a full-time position that we hope is permanent. So that's another good way of looking at the team that you have. Another way of looking at it is the level in the organization. There are lots of different levels. The board of directors are the most important members of your team that you have. Next to that is the board of advisors, and then after that comes your officers and your executives and your managers, and then the members of your team. I give speeches at CEO Space, which is an organization that I go to typically 5 times a year. I just got back from a couple of weeks ago. If you listen to the last 2 office hours presentations, you'll know that I actually made those from a hotel room at CEO Space. At CEO Space, I oftentimes give a presentation at my meal tables there about the importance of team and the different types of team. And I talked specifically about the board of directors and how important it is to exercise caution as to whether you're being on a board of directors or whether you're hiring your board of directors. I won't go into that full presentation now, but just be aware that when you hire somebody on your board of directors, you're hiring your boss. And when you consent to being on a board of directors, you have very specific legal obligations for the oversight and control of the company on behalf of all of the shareholders of the company. So I urge you to take that responsibility very seriously and understand what you're signing up for if you sign up to be on a board of directors. And likewise the other way, make sure you understand what you're signing up for when you invite somebody to be a member of your board of directors. Board of advisors is much less, let's say it's much less serious because it's typically temporary, it's typically part-time, and in some cases it may even be incidental. Boards of advisors typically don't have near the legal obligations or responsibilities that members of the board of directors have. Next comes your officers and executives who can be held legally responsible for the actions of a business, especially if the business commits any sort of fraud. Officers and executives at the company may be held legally responsible for that. So if you find yourself to be an officer or director of a company, make sure you understand that the company is operating with integrity and in an ethically responsible way. And when you hire officers and executives at your company, make sure you do your due diligence. Make sure you've checked their background and history and gone through a program that helps you know, whether or not they are ethically qualified and energetically qualified to be members of your executive team. Managers, make sure that when you hire managers, that they understand the roles and responsibilities of managers. There are a lot of different types of managers out there. Theory X managers can be very direct and very assertive. Theory Y are a lot more democratic. Make sure you get managers on your team and you train them to create a company culture that facilitates the company growth in the way that you want the company to grow. And then you've got members of your team, which are extremely valued. By the way, I don't hold any one of these positions in greater respect than anyone else. There are members of my team that I've had in the past that were just super, super people and super qualified to do their job and the utmost professional. I do not hold them in any more or less respect than I hold people who may be making a lot more money, who are officers and executives of the company. The bottom line is that you want you want professionals and competent professionals at every area of the business. And you want people who have a great mindset at every area too, and there are lots of different mindsets out there. One of the mindsets is the coworker mindset, somebody that's willing to pick up a shovel and roll up their sleeves and do the job with you. That will hopefully be able to take responsibility and make commitments and deliver on those commitments on a day-to-day basis. But you also want cheerleaders on your team, people who not necessarily roll up their sleeves and do the job with you, but they're there to encourage you to look and always see the greatness within you and always remind you of the potential that you have and the strength that you have when you perhaps have forgotten that for yourself. And curiously enough, it's very valuable to have detractors and devil's advocates on your team, people who will be very direct with you and say, what if? I know some people in my life that I have on my team just because they play that role, because I have a lot of cheerleaders on my team who look through the world sometimes with rose-colored glasses. It's important to have somebody that's a little bit of a pessimist on your team. You want to control them so that you can control the company culture, but you want to make sure that you have that person on your team that can ask the tough questions and really help you address the questions that only a detractor will bring up for you. Advisors and mentors, people who will give you advice and people who will show you how to do things, who will teach you how to do it, who will roll up their sleeves and do it with you or show you how to do it, can be very important. And coaches. And as I say in my Beyond Business Survival training program, I give a lot of time to different types of coaches out there. There are very direct coaches, the ones that I used to know at football practice who stood on the sideline and told you what plays to run and blew their whistle and called you on your stuff. And then there's indirect coaches today who generally don't give advice and who don't do stuff, but who rather just ask you really good questions and help you determine what your options are for yourself and help you make great decisions and hold you accountable to those decisions. And the last people I'm going to put on the different types of mindset are the umpires. Much like the detractors and the devil's advocate, the umpires have the courage and the strength to look you in the eye and tell you when you're not doing things very well. They will call you on your stuff and they will challenge you to step it up and to make sure that you're performing at your highest potential. So it's important to have all of these different mindsets on your teams. The cheerleaders, the co-workers, the devil's advocates, the people who will give you advice, the coaches, both direct and indirect, and the umpires who will call you on your stuff and tell you when it's a ball and tell you when it's a strike and tell you when you're out of bounds, and also be there to tell you when you just scored a touchdown too. Another way of looking at your team is the experience on your team. You may have some rookies on your team and some seasoned professionals and some masters on your team. And in my experience, really great teams have a blend of these. People who may be just rookies who are starting out at a low wage and a low level of responsibility within the organization and can bring that student's mindset, that seeker's mindset, that hungry person's mindset to your team. It's very important to have those rookies on your team who has a positive attitude about their career and are eager to learn as much as they possibly can. That's a really good energy to have on your team. You also want to have seasoned professionals, those who have been there and done that, and in a few positions at your team, have masters on your team too. It takes a pretty big company to afford to have masters and really excellence at every single area of your business. But I really encourage you to have, besides yourself, of course, to have masters on your team who can help guide the other people on your team in so many different ways out there. Another good way of looking at your teammate is the areas of functional responsibilities. I started out this call and most of my calls talking about the different key performance areas of business. I oftentimes say it's my encouragement to you, my admonition to you, my direction to you, my advice to you is to make sure that you have all of your bases covered, that it's very important for you to be at least competent in every key performance area of business so that you don't make a huge mistake and you don't have one area of weakness that slows you down or God forbid, shuts you down. So make sure that you have competence in leadership and competence in marketing and competence in sales and the other key performance areas too, and have your bases covered. And with you as a professional, you know, it means that you need to have the basic training in each one of these areas so that you know what competence looks like. We've talked about that a couple of times today. That's the number one challenge of small business owners, is they don't know what they don't know, and they don't know what competence looks like, so they have a hard time, you know, finding people who are competent and capable professionals to help them out in the areas of business. That's fundamentally why I created the training programs that I created that I'll talk to you a little bit more about down the road. And the last way I want to take a look at the different types of teams you may have is the sizes of support teams. You can have people who help you out on a one-on-one basis. You can have people who are small, and be a member of a small group, and also be a member of a community. And I advise you to have all three of these different sizes of groups as a part of your massive support strategy. So have somebody that you can talk to one-on-one about the really tough things that come up for you, both on a business level and a personal level. Get yourself a business coach, get yourself a personal coach, or a spiritual coach if that's what you're looking for, of people that you can have those intimate conversations with on a one-on-one basis and connect with them in a private, safe environment. A safe container, as sometimes it's called, can be extremely valuable to your support. I know one of the ways that I've grown so much over the last 8 or 9 years is through the many, many personal coaches and spiritual teachers that I have had. I dedicated my last book, The Practice of Awakening 2, The First Light of Joy, to the spiritual teachers that I've enjoyed having one-on-one conversations with over the last 8 or 9 years. And there were 28 of them. There were a lot of them. So I encourage you to have a lot of coaches and have a close relationship with people, both on the business level and on the personal level too. It's also been my pleasure to be a member of many small group support groups with 6 to 10 people in them. Masterminding, I think, starts at 3, but I really like a small group with 6 to 10 people because magic starts to happen when you have that kind of support team. They can give you support in ways that even the one-on-one relationship can't give you. And the final one is the community. I've been my pleasure to be a member of a lot of large support communities. There are fraternal organizations like Rotary and Kiwanis and Elk. There are trade organizations that can provide community support. There are fine organizations like CEO Space that can provide community support on both the business level and the personal level. And I encourage you to have, as part of your massive support strategy, to have relationships at each one of these different levels for you. So here's your homework and here's your exercise. First of all is analyze your team. You know, take a look at the team that you currently have in place and analyze it. Think about it along all of these different areas that we've talked about. Many different ways of taking a look at your team. These slides will be up in the next couple of days, and you'll have an opportunity to download the slides and take a look at it. There's no real exercise or handout here, but there is if you go to the Beyond Business Survival training program, and a few of you on your call have already taken advantage of that training program, and you know that there's a worksheet that we provide in there for you to analyze your team. And by the way, just so you'll know, full disclosure, I'm an analyst, I'm an implementer. If you come to me with a problem, you can be assured that the solution is almost always going to involve analyzing something and creating a plan and then executing that plan, because that's my gift in the way that I look through the world. That's the filter in which I look at the world, is through the filter of a computer programmer, an analyst, a project manager, an implementer, somebody that gets the job done. So my encouragement to you is, when it comes to your team, is to analyze your team, and then pay attention to what I consider to be the most important question in business, which is, who can I get on my team to help me form a great team? And get somebody on your team today who can help you analyze your team and help you form a better team for 2014 going forward. And third, focus on getting massive support. Don't ever think about just going it alone. Don't think about, even if you consider yourself to be a solopreneur, in that you're the only one officially in your business, for goodness sakes, don't think of yourself as being alone. Get yourself a coach, get yourself an advisor, fill out your team, help complement the talent and experience you have with the talent and experience of other people. We're going to have open questions and answers in just a minute. First of all, I encourage people to ask questions and make comments on the topic of the day, and then we'll open it up to any other issues that you might have. In the meantime, I encourage you to take advantage of a new small group support program that I've got called Success Between the Spaces. It is the next CEO Space Conference is coming up in March of this year, and this cycle I'm introducing this group coaching and masterminding program designed to help you make great progress in between the forums as they come up. It's 13 sessions. We had our first one last Saturday. The next one's going to be on Friday. We changed the time. It's 8 a.m. this Friday, and we're going to be talking again about the commitments that people have made and giving people an opportunity to check in and be held accountable for the commitments that they're making to themselves, and to ask the advice and gain support from the other members on the call. This is a classic small group support mechanism that I strongly encourage you to take advantage of. So you can go to www.successbetweenthespaces.com and sign up. There's no risk. There's a full money-back guarantee. If you make a couple of sessions into it and find out it's not for you, just let me know, and we'll make it right for you. And by the way, we are thinking about changing the program to make it a monthly enrollment program as opposed to something of a fixed number of sessions, so that you can drop in for a month and buy a fair number of sessions if you choose to do that on a monthly basis. Please let me know if that works for you. Give me a shout out and contact information I'll share at the end of the call today. But give me a shout out at the end of the call whenever if that's something that you'd like to take advantage of. I also encourage you to join me on Facebook. I have a Skype tribe out there. You can connect with me at Paul Hoyt and connect with me on Facebook and Skype, by the way. Excuse me, I misspoke there. If you connect with me on Facebook, you can get your energy of the day every day. I post a small little inspirational message every morning, which I've been doing now for, I think, 20 times or so, and I can expect to continue doing that for the next 5 or 10 years. So get your energy of the every day by connecting with me on Facebook. And I encourage you to study, listen to the Business Survival Bootcamp that many of you received free or at a dramatically discounted price when you joined this program. Watch the other office hours recordings, and then purchase and study Beyond Business Survival. That's my CEO training program. It's what you really need to know when you're the CEO. I want you to get the critical training that you need so that you can avoid making mistakes that will slow you down or shut you down. I really believe this program is worth $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 or more, not just the first time, but every time you go through it. And if you're of a mind to hire somebody to help you to grow your business, I provide a lot of different services out there: group coaching, one-on-one coaching, help people write business plans, do strategic plans and financial models, and mentor and advise them. Programs start as low as a couple of $100 so that you can get the advice and get the value of my experience regardless of what your budget is. I'm also available for radio interviews, webinars, teleseminars, and I've got a nice affiliate program in place too. And as a reminder, the new year is almost here. I'm rolling out a brand new program in 2014 called the Annual Action Plan. It's a full day long virtual workshop online on Saturday, January the 11th and Saturday, January the 18th. You can go to www.annualactionplan.com and find out all the details and sign up for that program. And next Monday, the topic is going to be following up, managing your sales pipeline. I think that might be support for a lot of you. I want to share with you the tips and techniques that I've used for dozens of years when it comes to managing my sales pipeline, so that you can manage your pipeline a little bit more effectively, and as a consequence, close more deals than you would have closed otherwise. and also encourage you to let me know what topics you would like for me to address on future office hours presentation at paulssurvey.com. paulssurvey.com allows you to share information on office hours and also allows you to let me know when you might want to reschedule this, if you do want to reschedule them. And watch the Business Survival Bootcamp in the meantime and do your homework. Now let's open it up for questions for the day. Thank you so much for allowing me to present on this topic. And we're going to open it up as we always do, first with questions that are related to the topic, and then later on to questions that are open for anything. This is only about a 30-minute presentation, so we get a lot of time to talk about stuff today. And anytime you like, go to paulssurvey.com, fill out the survey, or send me an email to paul@paulhoyt.com, or give me a call at the telephone number that's on your screen. And with that, I'm going to open it up and say, Audra, my lovely and talented assistant in the Great White Frozen North, do we have any questions that came up during today's call?
Hello, everyone, and Paul. Actually, we have a very active audience today. There's a couple comments from Richard. Richard says, good point about needing talent at every level. I would suggest that the middle management may be more important than executives because they interpret and convert strategy to execution, but can also sink and derail the business in spite of executive direction.
Yeah, that sounds like the voice of experience talking, Richard. And that's been my experience too, that sometimes, the higher you get up in the organization, from the board of directors level to the, even the officers and executives of the company, especially if the company is of any size. And Richard and I both have experience working with companies that were very large, with thousands of employees and $1 billion in revenue. At companies like that, it's very common for the people who are at the top to be very out of touch for what's going on, in the grassroots, really on the playing field. I think that's one of the reasons why the TV show Undercover Boss is one of my favorites. In every one of those episodes, and by the way, I encourage you to watch that, because you'll get to see how bosses think and how they act, and you'll get to see, how out of touch people can become or can come to be with various levels of the organization. So you make a great point. I actually think I wouldn't call one particular level in the organization more important than the other, but I would say that having managers, those first-line managers who are managing the day-to-day activities of the people who are typically doing the work on a day-to-day basis, is extremely critical. And it's very important for every company to have great training programs available for managers. And by the way, I think that I have this theory that says that my Beyond Business Survival CEO training program would be a great training program for people at all levels of business. My theory is, and this is, I think it's more than theory, I think it's my personal experience, is that if you're a manager in the accounting department, understanding what marketing does and understanding what product development does and understanding the challenges of leadership can help you be a better manager, because you can see how your role in the organization fits into the overall role. So Richard, I applaud you on that comment about the importance of management and teaching managers effectively and helping them get a manager's mindset. A manager's mindset is much different than a frontline mindset. An individual contributor's mindset is that I'm going to achieve greatness through my own efforts and through my own talent. And a manager's mindset is that I'm going to achieve greatness through the efforts and the talents of others. And it takes a long time for somebody who is focused on being a stellar individual performer to shift to being an excellent manager and being able to conduct the orchestra instead of playing the orchestra and achieve greatness through the efforts of others. So great comment. Thank you very much, Richard. Next comment or question, Audra.
So we have another comment from Richard. Richard, thank you. You mentioned trade organizations. They are a great matching resource to a specialist business advisor and one of the most economical ways to get basic trade-specific training materials.
Good comment. I applaud that as well, especially if you're a professional in any sort of technical field. And technical to me could mean that you do drywall or plumbing or construction work, because trade associations are very important there as well. Or technical could be that you're a coach or a therapist, or even an administrative assistant, some sort of profession where your expertise can make a difference, or certainly the technical fields of engineering and software and all of the high-tech stuff. When you go to trade associations, you can form lifetime and long-lasting relationships and get the training that can only come from somebody that's outside your organization, to see how other people are doing it and help you keep up on the leading edge can be extremely valuable. So I think a trade organization, that support community, that third level, where first level is one-on-one, second level is small group, and the third level is the community itself, trade associations and business organizations like CEO Space can be extremely valuable to helping you be a better professional in the years to come. Next, Audra.
Okay, and Richard finally does have a question. Well, it's more of a comment, but he's been very active, so thank you, Richard. Would you agree that talent and team are a required combination? Sorry, guys. I'm going to start again. Would you agree that talent and team are a required combined attribute? Talent alone won't make a team, and a great team might not actually have the talent. There's a book called Hotspots by Linda Grattan that talks about this.
I haven't read Hotspots, but of course you're right on. And I will give you an analogy about that. Oftentimes I see a couple of business owners who are struggling because neither one of them is good at sales or marketing, joined together with the false assumption or false belief that somehow by having a more broad offering that they will be more attractive to clients. And the truth is that if you're not good at sales and marketing, partnering up with somebody else who's not good at sales and marketing will not make the both of you better at sales and marketing. It'll just make you have a different offering to the marketplace and be attractive to a different market. But if you don't know how to address that market, communicate your value to that market, and engage in a sales cycle and ask for the order and reach agreement and deliver a quality product, it's not going to make you more successful. So just teaming up with somebody else doesn't necessarily make you more successful. It only makes you successful is that if your weaknesses are their strengths and their strengths are your weaknesses and vice versa, so that when you come together, you can provide a much stronger total solution to your marketplace, not an equally weak but broader solution. So that's another great comment, Richard. Did anybody else have a question for today, Audra?
Yeah, there's actually quite a bit of activity. So Ron is asking, and Ron, I hope I understand your question here. He says, legal status and relationship of virtual assistants and their organization.
Is there a question there?
Well, I think he's asking about what is the legal status and relationship of a, quote, virtual assistant. Is that a contractor, an employee? I mean, how does that work?
Well, virtual assistants are almost always contractors, although they don't necessarily have to be. You could have a full-time employee who was a virtual assistant. In that case, the word virtual means that they're just not in the office with you on a day-to-day basis, that your relationship is across time and space and a digital relationship instead of a physical face-to-face relationship. So you could have a virtual assistant that was a full-time employee, and you could also have a virtual assistant that was a contractor. In my experience, most of the time, virtual assistants are part-time and contractors. But if you ever find yourself in a position to where your virtual assistant is full-time with you for over, I would say, 90 days, and this is not tax advice, but generally this is just kind of practical common sense and business advice. If your virtual assistant is full-time with you and has no other clients for 90 days or more, from the IRS perspective, they're likely to treat them as an employee, and you'll need to bring them on as an employee and do the appropriate employee taxes and deductions and all of the benefits that they can enjoy as an employee. So that's my response. Virtual assistants are almost always contractors, but I can imagine a rare occasion where your virtual assistant was in fact a full-time employee and needed to be classified as one and treated as one. Next question.
So we have a question from Dr. Irwin. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
You were.
Awesome. So beyond skills and experience, what fundamental key qualities should we look for in each member of our team that should be non-negotiable?
Ethics, virtues. I'm a big fan of every company having a list of virtues that they hold dear and that are sacrosanct and cannot be violated under any circumstances. You know, to have somebody that adheres, that understands and is consistent with your values and your virtues is extremely important. So, for example, you may say that we value honesty, we value integrity, we value diversity, we value acceptance and respect of others, we value tolerance, we value courtesy. There are all kinds of different professional virtues that you may have that you hold sacrosanct with your organization. And it's important in job interviews and in performance evaluations and for every manager at your company to, to address those, to communicate them appropriately and fairly, and to hold people accountable and be very direct when you see somebody that is acting in a manner that is inconsistent with your corporate standards of behavior, of courtesy, respect, authenticity, integrity, honesty, and operating within the letter and the spirit of the law, etc. So in addition to talent, in addition to experience, it's really important for me to have somebody that's consistent with the energy that I want to have on my team. Because if you have somebody that just, is skirting around the law or is showing up grumpy every day, you want to try to help them out of their darkness as best you possibly can. But at some point in time, you have to realize that they can be a real detractor to your efficiency and your productivity, and encourage them to make a change or make a change on behalf of all of your teammates by giving them the opportunity to take their talent and experience elsewhere. So watch the energy and along with the talent and the experience that they have. Thank you, Doctor. Next question.
Paul, that was a perfect lead-in to the doctor's next question. In getting team synergism, how do you gain alignment and their commitment to your business vision and drive it?
The first answer is communication. First of all, you have to define it for yourself. What is your vision? What is your mission? What are your objectives? What are your annual objectives, your quarterly objectives? Define them for yourself, and by the way, that's one of the things that I help companies do, is help with strategic planning where we define those objectives for the short term and the long term. But once you define them, is communicate them, have them in your staff meetings, in your executive meetings, and encourage your managers to talk to the frontline workers about what your goals and objectives are. Communicate, communicate, communicate is the number one way that you get people to, to be on the team with you. Another good principle, by the way, is to allow them to participate in the process. So if you have a team with 2 or 3 key people on it, don't just go off by yourself and create your strategic plan. Invite them to participate with you, because it is a known fact. I'll call this a fact, although I don't know where the research is that backs it up. To me, it's a fact, or at least I have a strong conviction that people participate in a project much more effectively if they had the opportunity to help design that in the first place. So if you get somebody to help you create the plan, they're much more likely to support the plan and to be focused and determined on helping you successfully execute and implement the plan. So define and communicate and participate, I think, are 3 really good words when it comes to getting your team energized around your goals and objectives. Next.
This one's a good one too. I always have an impulse to draft family and friends into the company. They are cheap. They've got my best interest at heart, right? Is this a good idea?
Well, first, God bless you. It's always nice to be surrounded by family and friends. I myself am still recovering from my addiction to approval and support in that way. But generally speaking, the answer is no, it's not a good idea. Generally, you hire talent. You hire people with experience, and you focus first on defining what the job is to be done, and then checking somebody's qualifications for them to actually perform the job and the roles and responsibilities of the job that you're hiring. You do the due diligence to make sure that in fact, they can do what they say that they can do, and then you bring somebody on in an onboarding process that involves a probationary period of time. So it's great when your coworkers can become your friends, but I encourage you not to hire friends and family unless you've had a previous working relationship. Now, so for example, Richard Pugh and I started out 15 years ago, 17 years ago, however long ago it was, a long time ago. We came to work together first, and then we became friends. So for us to work together now, if he were to hire me or I were to hire him, it would be friends hiring friends, but we first had the working relationship in place. And we know that the work comes first. There's a job to be done. Another one of my really great colleagues who is on this call right now, Jim Ward, oftentimes tells me, it's about the objective. It's about the mission. It's not about whether or not you're my friend or not, or whether or not I care about you or not. It's really about succeeding on the goal that we have in front of us, and it's about the mission and the objective. That comes first. In business, it has to come first before any sort of friendship or family relationship comes in. And in some cases, that can really get in the way. Family-owned businesses where it's almost expected that junior and sis are going to join the business can be among the most challenging, because holding people accountable when they're members of your family can be extremely challenging to do. It takes a very strong parenting environment, a patriarchal, a matriarchal environment where you can hold people accountable and call them on their stuff, even though they know and you know that you love them and care about them, and you're not going to boot them out of the family, but you might just boot them out of the business. Next question.
Okay. How do I know what I'm good at versus what I think I'm good at? Any rule of thumb to help me not fool myself into thinking I am exceptional and good at everything?
Well, it may be self-serving, but I encourage you to buy and listen to my Beyond Business Survival training program, where we talk about the best practices and success principles across all of the different areas of business. Listen to that program, and you're bound to find some of the areas in which you are more qualified and more exceptional than in the other areas. I know I do. Even though I've been in business for 50 years, as we talked earlier, there are some things that I know that I'm not particularly gifted at, marketing being one of them, which is why I hired Audra, who's on our call, as member of my marketing team. We just know over time. But if you suspect that you're not very good at something, probably the answer is that you're not very good at it. And I'll come back to my most important question in all of business. Who can I get on my team to help me form a good team? The implication of that is, who can I get on my team who will tell me when I'm not very good at the stuff that I think that I'm good at? Having that umpire on your team, that person that will look you in the eye and call you on your stuff and tell you when you're good at something and tell you when you're not very good at something, is very important. So get yourself a business coach on your team, at least, who can help you figure out the areas of your business that are not going well, which almost by implication will tell you the things that you are not qualified to do, or things that you are choosing not to do well yourself. Next, I love that question, by the way. Thank you for that. Next question, Audra.
So the next one is from our doctor again, Dr. Owen. Where do we go so we can access sources of talent that we can access? There's a lot out there, but there must be an effective approach to use.
Wow. In today's environment, I think it really depends on the sources of talent. Some cases, the right thing to do is ask for referrals. For example, if you want to have a good attorney, especially if it's along a specific line of expertise, intellectual property or securities or criminal litigation or whatever it happens to be, ask your trusted friends and colleagues who they have gone to in the past and who they go to. The same with dentists and doctors. You ask around with your family and friends and your colleagues about who they trust to go to. You can have a more public approach. You can put an ad out on Craigslist, but then comes the challenge of vetting those. Oftentimes, the right thing to do is to hire an HR firm, a firm that will help you define the job description, that will help you, put the ads out on Craigslist and on Monster.com and CareerBuilder.com, and be able to take those resumes and analyze them and vet them so that you only have to spend your time interviewing extremely qualified candidates. So I guess there's three different approaches that I'm kind of brainstorming here. One approach is we just ask family and friends and colleagues, and we only talk to people who are referred by the people that we trust. A second way is we do it ourselves in a public way by putting an ad out on Craigslist and just filtering through all of the responses that we get on our own. And a third way is to hire an executive recruiting firm or some firm that can help us vet the different prospects that we have and the applicants that we have, so that we know that when we're interviewing somebody and spending our time, investing our time in interviewing people, that we're only interviewing qualified candidates and we're not filtering through all of the fluff and all of the stuff by ourselves. Next question, Audra.
So the next question sort of dovetails a little bit into that. I can't afford to have very experienced people. What can I do?
That's one of the toughest questions at all. And being a soloist in my own business for a number of years, it wasn't always so, and it won't always be so. I know that there can be businesses out there that just can't afford to hire masters or even experienced professionals at every area of the business. And the answer is, if you can't afford to hire people to do the job for you, you have to find a way to get the job done yourself. And that means get the training that you need in order to know what it means to be good at that area of business, and do the best job that you can on your own or with incidental workers who will come in for just a few $100s every once in a while and help you overcome the jams that you get yourself into. Almost by definition, if you choose to do it that way, if that's the position that you're in, your company will grow slower than if you had $1 million budget and were able to hire six-figure professionals in every area of your business. You as a business owner, the number one, by the way, business success principle that we talked about in our very first office hours presentation is accepting 100% responsibility for everything that happens in your business. And that means you have to find a way to get the job done. You have to accept 100% responsibility. And sometimes that's you doing the job, even though you may be slow and not doing it as well as other people. And sometimes that's begging and borrowing and getting people to do it on a trade out of services of some kind, to come in and lend their expertise because you don't have the cash. And sometimes that's saving your money so you can afford to hire competent professionals and get the training that you need. Whatever it takes, do it yourself, do it with somebody, hire somebody to do it for you, whatever it takes. It's your responsibility as the CEO of your business to find a way to get the job done. It's 12:56 by my clock, by the way. I think we got time for one more question before we wrap it for a day. Audra, do we have one final question?
Oh, we do. And actually we have, just to let Nick know. Nick, I'm going to forward your questions because they're a little off topic. I'm going to forward them to Paul for afterward. And I'm going to continue on with the next question.
Thank you.
I've got people on my team which I need to release. How do I have that conversation?
Having tough conversations is one of the critical skill sets of business owners. I talked about this a little before in my office hours presentations, and I talk about this in my Beyond Business Survival training program. But I'm a big fan of what I call the UCR method, and it's also a variation on that of UCD. So UCR stands for the words uncomfortable, concerned, and request. And UCD stands for uncomfortable, concerned, and declaration, or telling people what you're going to do. So the conversation goes something like this. John, I'm really uncomfortable with the quality of work that I've been seeing from you lately, and I'm very concerned that you're not going to be able to do this job either in the short term or the long term. So my request to you is that you focus on the quality a lot more, because if we don't in the next 30 days or so, we're going to have to make a decision to let you go. Or just simply making the declaration. John, I got to tell you, I'm very uncomfortable with the quality of work that you've had. I'm very concerned about your ability to be a long-term member of this team, and so we're going to make a decision to let you go. Those three words, uncomfortable, concern, and request, or uncomfortable, concerned, and here's my declaration of what I'm going to do, are ways for you to have those conversations. And I'll go back to the previous statement is, as a small business owner, you have to take 100% responsibility for your success, and you have to find a way to have that conversation, whether that's my UCR system or my UCD system, or whether that's just, you know, letting it blow out of you in some way. Don't hold it in. You got to have that conversation, because a stitch in time saves 9, which, by the way, means that if we have a tear in our fabric, if we do a stitch today, it's worth 9 stitches tomorrow, because tomorrow the repair job is going to be much more extensive than the repair job is today. So, you know, take the tough action, take the tough step, suck it up, you know, have the courage to do that which scares you and that which troubles you. Do it today, because it's going to get worse if you don't do it and delay it till tomorrow. And with that, I'm going to call our session for an end for today. I want to thank each and every one of you for attending our office hours presentation or listening to the recording. It is Monday, December 23rd. So if I don't speak to you in between now and then, have a very Merry Christmas and a very Happy New Year. I look forward to seeing you next week, December the 30th, Monday, when we're going to talk about following up and having success with your sales pipeline. This is Paul Hoyt wishing you a very Merry Christmas, a most marvelous and prosperous day. Thank you again. Bye-bye.
The organizer has